Picking how you conceal carry is an incredibly personal choice, and today we're going to look at evaluating 3 different options, how it affects the draw speed, the typical comfort, and there is a video sponsor for today. It is the Grab Bag, so they are making this possible. First, we have inside the waistband. This is the Horus, I don't know, I don't speak Egyptian, the Horus holster IWB configuration from the guys over at Grab Bag. It is a traditional inside the waistband, kind of like between 2 and 12 o'clock sort of position. And honestly, it's a great holster. We're gonna have the old standby. There is the outside the waistband. This one particularly isn't really intended for concealed carry, and that's fine. It's the Horus outside the waistband holster, but it's gonna give us a baseline for draw speed. But what is very interesting is the actual Grab Bag itself, which is a holster in sort of a fanny pack looking thing, takes up to about a Glock 17 size pistols. They make them for smaller guns as well. It's got Velcro MOLLE on the inside, so the holster stays snug. And this is actually interesting because I bet you have a battle belt built out for if the end of the world scenario where you can just throw it on and go out the door or whatever. But what if you're going to the gym and you don't have a belt on? What if you are just running to the store and you've got your swim trunks on? This is something that could actually bridge that gap and give you the capability of carrying a proper firearm and still give you added functionality of like a cell phone pocket, and there's like a wallet pocket on the front, or you can keep all of your little trinkets with you as you go. But really what we're looking into is kind of the comfort, the pros and cons of the different carry systems and how it affects our time on target. So let's jump into it. So we're back at about 10 yards to just a little 12-inch circle of steel. Gonna come on to target and just lay down a baseline time for what draw can be from outside the waistband. This has a thigh rig, so it's tied down. So it's actually kind of cool for like hard use, tactical games kind of stuff, but not necessarily a concealment holster. Here we go. All right, 116. 109. 115, 103, see if we can get sub 1. I didn't hit the target, but that's a .91. Realistically, with accountable sights at 10 yards to a 12-inch circle, I'm looking at about a 109 to a 115-ish draw. We'll see what we can do with inside the waistband now. So concealment with this holster is pretty good. This is just a larger gun with an optic, but it honestly conceals plenty fine. Carried it a little bit here and it's been just fine. But what we're interested in is time to target. So here we go. So that's a 136. I'm about 2/10 slower off my inside the waistband draw. Let's go again. It's a 129. 129. 126. That's a 121. So between about 121 and 130 on the appendix, there's extra time to defeat concealment. I am at 10 yards, not like 5 yards or 7 yards. So there is a little bit of sights and a little bit of trigger I'm having to deal with out here. So let's give it a shot and see what the bag can do. I have the Grab Bag with the holster mounted, and this is going to be kind of a different situation because the gun does kind of flop around in the bag. So I'm gonna have to actually move my vision down to the bag to make sure that I'm grabbing it, and I'm gonna have to make sure that I don't sweep my hand as I'm bringing the gun up into target. So when I defeat the bag, it's really easy because it's held together with magnets. So you just kind of hit the plastic loop, rip it out, and then you're there. I don't know, I gotta imagine it's gonna be a little bit slower than the appendix draw, but let's see what we get here. So Mr. Timer's ready to rock. Here we go. That's a 182. So that is about initially 5/10 slower. I don't have a ton of reps with it. Let's see if we can't get a little bit quicker. That's a 173, a little better. Got to be careful with where that pouch is when you're going to reholster. That's a 172, give it 2 more. 173. It's a 171. But Crossbody is also an option, so I'm gonna get set up for crossbody and try it again and see where we get. Now, crossbody is another way people like to use these kind of like sling bag type systems. The problem with it is not anchored to my body at all when it's this way, and similarly, when I'm trying to get the gun out of the holster, I need to make sure that I'm holding the holster down with the loop on the bag as I retrieve the weapon and reholstering. Just gotta keep that support hand clear of the bag. So I have no illusions this is going to be quicker than from the belt, but let's take a look at it. I can already tell you getting my support hand onto the gun because I do have to hold the bag down, like pulling it straight to my rib cage and retrieving the gun. It's coming up to the gun late, so it's affecting my time to trigger. That's a 213. So 235, that was a slower one. That's a 234. So I'm right there in kind of like the 2.3. So it added about a half second coming from the bag on the waist, and it's adding about a full second when I'm going from the sling bag type position. But I'll show you something real quick. With the appendix holster, and this is true to a lesser extent on strong side and small back, it's just different activities. Comfort is going to end up being a thing. So already I'm going to have the texture of the gun against my bare stomach. But where we really get into trouble is just something as simple as bending over and tying your shoes. That's when it starts getting pressed up into you. It takes about 2 weeks of wearing a gun in an appendix holster before it feels kind of normal. It's probably the most comfortable way to carry inside the waistband, but it's still, you never really forget the gun is there. People who say that have nerve damage, I'm convinced of it. But with a system like this, I can move it to the side and do whatever I want, and the gun is absolutely not a problem. It's just the little bit of weight, and I have a spare magazine, no problem, versus like the sidecar style holster where you have just a massive sheet of plastic covering your stomach. So there are advantages and disadvantages. I'm not necessarily saying that this is going to be for everybody, but it is a nice thing to potentially evaluate as having a backup when you're just running to the store or something like that. So thanks to our friends over at Grab Bag for making this possible, and thank you for watching it.